Welcome to part 3 of the East Coast road trip series. This video will cover what we got up to in Cape Cod, Boston and Salem, Massachusetts. And if you're joining from part 2, we just headed off from Providence, Rhode Island to make the 2-hour car journey to Provincetown, Cape Cod. Provincetown, or P-Town as it's known to local Americans, is located in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, so just beside Martha's Vineyard in that general direction. And we headed to the Lobster Pot, which is quite famous for its clam chowder and all of its lobsters, and yeah, very popular spot. We dined here, got a table in around 15 minutes, had to wait, but the menu is extensive. As you can see, there's so much to offer. But I had to have the clam chowder and himself had to have his first lobster roll. This was the start of so much lobster and clam chowder, but oh my god, delicious.
Oh, that was a good shot.
And I think this ended up being probably the best clam chowder I had on the whole trip. So would definitely recommend. It was so tasty. Then we ventured further into P-Town and just had a little stroll around the seaside town. It was really nice, not many cars around. It kind of reminded me of Fire Island, just off the coast of New York, and had a very nice bookshop, which I didn't mind exploring and browsing for a while. But yeah, really cool town. A lot of Portugal flags, and there was even a Portuguese bakery, which is quite interesting. But yeah, some really great art as well, some murals, some funky shops, little boutiques. Yeah, would totally recommend checking this place out. Really fun. And then it was time to head to Boston. This was my second time visiting Boston, and honestly I was so excited to come here. I don't know why, I just had this really good feeling about being back in Boston, and I was so excited to see the skyline. And we were staying in a loft hotels in the Seaport District. Very nice hotel, and they kindly upgraded us to the top floor, which meant we had an amazing view of Boston City and the bed facing these lovely windows of the city. But funnily, you can actually see into the bathroom if you want to have a little conversation. And then for dinner, we headed into Little Italy in Boston. And this was actually the first restaurant we came to the last time we were in Boston. Boston was our first ever trip away together when we both lived in New York, so it was quite a full circle moment coming back here 3.5 years later and having insane Italian food. I would totally recommend the wait. It is so good, and I just love this area of Boston. It's so good. We headed to a famous Irish bar, the Rushing Do, and they played really good Irish music, which I loved. And we headed on to another one, which is more of a local spot, and yeah, it was very fun. We had a few games of darts and kind of kept to ourselves. It was a very much a local person spot, dive bar, but loved it. And our first full day in Boston, so we were here for another full day exploring the city, and we headed out, had breakfast, and just had a roam around places that we were familiar with because we love Boston so much, and I could definitely see myself living here in the future. It's definitely won me over big time this second time around. For breakfast, we headed to the Friendly Toast, which was a very highly recommended spot. There were people playing hockey on the street, which was really cute. And yeah, we just waited around here to get a table. It was very busy, it is very popular, but really funky inside, all different colours, and a really good menu as well, but very tasty food and just a really great atmosphere. I had some lovely French toast and himself went for a more savoury option, but both delicious. Then we had a wander around the city. It was extremely hot, so I did have to perch myself down a few times because I was not really coping with the heat. It is so warm, but I just love this area of Boston. It kind of reminds me of New York a little bit, like Brooklyn, Park Slope, but yeah, just a gorgeous area that I would love to live in someday. And then we headed to Boston Common. And you might recognise this scene from Good Will Hunting. So nice just to recreate that lovely scene with Matt Damon and Robin Williams. And this is the Cheers bar. We did come here last time, so we didn't venture in this time, but it is here if you want to come and get a pint. Also, this is Little Influencer Street, so that's himself being an influencer on Acorn Street, but just a gorgeous cobbled street in this district of Boston, and I just love that area with architecture, and the houses are gorgeous. Then we joined the Freedom Trail, so you will notice these red lines all around the city, on the roads, on the pavements, and basically this helps you wander around all the architecture, all the old things to see in Boston, which is very helpful. You just follow the signs, follow the red lines on the roads, and you'll see everything you need to see. It is very well done, very, very clever. This is my favourite little spot in Boston. It has that old architecture mixed with the new, and it's just such a nice area. This is also the Irish Famine Memorial in Boston, and they have a lot of things you can read about how Boston helps the Irish and about Irish immigration as well, as it played a big part in Irish history. We headed into Quincy Market and Fenway Market to have a little wander around the stalls, as it did look like it was going to rain, and it did. So it was time for us to get some more clam chowder and head into Quincy Market. And there's so many food options here. It is so good. I would love to be able to try more than 2 or 3 that we tried that day. But yeah, so many food options, so much lobster, fresh fish, really, really good. We sat upstairs, so it was raining and a lot of people were kind of lingering around, but we grabbed a table. I had my clam chowder, delicious as per usual, and yeah, there was a lot more lobster and clam chowder to come. And the rain had started and it didn't stop for a few hours, but we had to head on because we were going to a baseball game at Fenway Park and going to see the Red Sox, which is a huge bucket list item for me, and I was so glad to be able to take that off and be in Boston and yeah, be able to say I've been to a game at Fenway Park. So it was very, very fun.
Box 157. Please welcome Omar Ramirez.
Jesus. The next morning we checked out of our hotel. It was time for us to move on, but we couldn't leave without having some cannolis from Bova's Bakery. We were too full from our dinner the first night in Boston, but we couldn't leave without having some of their famous cannolis for breakfast and for the short drive to Salem. We got 2 cannolis and an apple square, which were so delicious.
I don't think this car in front lives here. With a porch, like.
Yeah. They all have porches.
Yeah. I saw you one, I don't know.
We arrived in Salem, and this is our second time in Salem, so we have been here before, but we are yet to go around Halloween, which still annoys me, but it means that we have to come back a third time when it is that witchy season. It's Halloween, it's dark, it's autumnal, and we must come back. But we're huge fans of Hocus Pocus, and it was just so good to be back and to see the different sites that we'd already seen before, but we finally had a car this time, so we were able to go to more places and actually see Hocus Pocus filming locations, including this one you might recognise as Alison's house. This is Rope's mansion, and you can actually go inside, go around the back and go to their gardens, which is free of charge to enter, and see the gorgeous gardens at the back. It was very hot, so you can see some people were sheltering in the shade, the only little patch of shade in the garden, but it also had a little free library, which was a very nice touch. We found this huge new store that hadn't been here before, very gothy, very Salem, but yeah, it used to be a bank, so it has a working vault, and this is the Bewitched statue, very famous sight to see in Salem. And then we headed into the Witch Village, so this has lots of different stores, boutiques. This is the Town Hall, which you'll recognise from Hocus Pocus as well if you're a fan, and they even had a wicked good bookshop. It did sell all of the recent releases and your romance novels, but there was a special section for the more witchy of us and the Hocus Pocus, tarot readings, Wicca spells. What more could you want? But there was also a section for Irish politics, which was very surprising. We visited this museum a few years ago, and I would recommend. I really enjoyed it. The first time around we came, learned a lot about Salem and the witch trials, so very good. And then we got in our car and headed out to more of the Hocus Pocus filming locations, and you wouldn't really think that Salem is situated right by the water, and it's a gorgeous location, but it just doesn't really feel Salem. Then this is the House of the Seven Gables. We didn't go in because it was like $30 I think for entry, and we weren't overly fussed to go in, but this is what I could capture from outside, and like I said, it's right on the water. This is the famous Dennison house. This is Max and Danny's house, and you don't know this from the movie, but it sits right facing the water. Like, it has the most gorgeous viewpoint, but you don't see that in the movie. But yeah, it was so fun to see this house in person. And then this is the Pioneer Village where they filmed the first scenes and where the Sanderson house is. So cool to come and see this, but it was closed that day that we came. And that's it from Boston, Salem and Cape Cod. Thank you so much for watching, and stick around for part 4 when we head to Bar Harbor in Portland, Maine.